Hello world, welcome to the next part of the Genesis Bible study. Today we're doing lesson 11 and we're looking at worship then murder. And the idea behind this is the following. Very often as people we tend to live in two worlds. We like to go out and party on Saturday and drink and do whatever it is we really enjoy on our Saturdays. And then on Sundays we end up sitting in church and then we want to pray and read the Bible and live a holy life, and Monday we're back at work telling sexual jokes, lusting, flirting and swearing. And this is a problem in humanity, is this dualism of trying to live in two worlds. When we read in Genesis 4, we see that Adam knew his wife Eve, and she conceived and bore Cain, saying, I've gotten a man with the help of the Lord. And again she bore his brother Abel. Now Abel was a keeper of sheep and Cain a worker of the ground. In the course of time, Cain brought to the Lord an offering of the fruit of the ground, and Abel also brought of the firstborn of his flock and their fat portions. And the Lord had regard for Abel and his offering, but for Cain and his offering he had no regard. So Cain was very angry and his face fell. So what we see here is it's a question of, why did God accept one and not the other? And I believe it comes down to a matter of worship and trust. First we have Eve. She has a son, and remember in our last study we saw that there came the prophecy of of someone who would come and step on the head of the serpent. And she had a son and said, I've gotten a man with help of the Lord. And it shows more that what she had was faith and a belief that, hey, God has provided me with a seed. Something's going to happen. We have Abel, who was a keeper of sheep, or in other words, a shepherd, which is what Jesus was. He's also known as the Good Shepherd. So it's sort of a type of Jesus. The Old Testament is full of these typical type of representations. Now what we see that is he brought the firstborn of his flock, which means he had no guarantee his flock would ever have a second child. There was no guarantee of this. Means he had to trust in God that there would be one. And also a bringing of the flock, it's a representation of sacrifice for sins, which is what God had done for Adam and Eve. And it shows quite an interesting image of someone who is willing to trust God and someone who is bringing a sacrifice for his sins. Cain, on the other hand, was a worker of the ground, which is a type of Adam. And he brought an offering of the fruit of the ground. It says he brought it of, in other words, implying he had some left over. And what he was doing was relying on his own resources then. He didn't have to trust God because there was still some. And that's human nature, is we want securities outside of God, and then we do not trust and we do not show God the right worship. As we read further, it says, the Lord said to Cain, why are you angry? Why has your face fallen? If you do well, will you not be accepted? And if you do not do well, sin is crouching at the door. Its desire is contrary to you, but you must rule over it. Cain spoke to Abel his brother, and when they were in the field, Cain rose up against his brother Abel and killed him. God gave a warning, a very clear warning to Cain, and he does it with us as well. We have a conscience. It means there are things that when we do, we know they are wrong. God has built that in us as a way of letting us know. We also have the Bible and God's law, which says what is right and wrong. And we have the Holy Spirit. That is God's Spirit that will work in us and show us what is wrong. God warns us. There's no real excuse for when people do wrong things or bad things, because God has given us different warning mechanisms. Like with Cain, where he actually went directly to Cain and said, why? Watch out. Okay, as we read further, it then says, the Lord said to Cain, where is Abel your brother? He said, I do not know. Am I my brother's keeper? And the Lord said, what have you done? The voice of your brother's blood is crying to me from the ground. And now you are cursed from the ground, which has opened its mouth to receive your brother's blood from your hand. When you work the ground, it shall no longer yield to you its strength. You shall be a fugitive and a wanderer on the earth. But wait a minute, did we just get the same punishment? A cursing of the ground? Remember, Adam was the representative of mankind. When he sinned, the punishment he came was punishment for mankind, because we are all sinners. What Cain got here, while it looks similar, is a personal punishment. God gave him a punishment saying, you are going to be a wanderer and you are going to not get anything out of the ground. Basically, his securities were taken away because he wasn't trusting on the true God. Then Cain went away from the presence of the Lord and settled in the land of Nod, east of Eden. And here comes the big contention. And Cain knew his wife, and she conceived and bore Enoch. And he built a city. He called the name of his son Enoch. But Cain knew his wife. Where did Cain get a wife? Adam, Eve, and then Cain and Abel. Where's his wife? Now, a theory that's going around is that Cain left Adam's region on earth. After all, he was a wanderer now. Met the most beautiful half-ape human or whatever other non-Adamic human there was, or semi-human. He married her, and now impure man has ape-like features, but the Sethian super race does not. That's what it implies, because later on Adam and Eve had Seth. But there's a problem with this. It's not true. You see, in Genesis 5 verse 4, something interesting, Sanjay. It says that Adam had other sons and daughters. In other words, there were more people to choose from. There weren't just Adam, Eve, and Cain and Abel, and then later on Seth. There were sons and daughters. So where did Cain get his wife? It's one of the daughters of Adam. Incest, we cry out. No, there is a difference between, at least how incest works. You see, this only became a problem in Leviticus 18, when God gave the command that you shall not uncover the nakedness of your sister, your father's daughter, or your mother's daughter, whether brought up in the family or in another home. You see, before then, there was not a problem to marry your brother or sister. I mean, there was not much else choice. And from a DNA perspective, Adam being created perfect, his children would have had perfect DNA. It would be fine. Only later did incest become a problem because of genetics, and did it become a sin. If you think about it, it's only recent history that we don't marry cousins. But there was a time when that was also considered normal. And that became a matter of law because it is dangerous for the children that come out of those relationships. So remember, man was perfect. Sin led to the curse of entropy. So the first children would not see the effects of that entropy, and therefore would have no problems of having children. They lived to 900 years old. After the flood, we now only live to 90. It's because of the genetic mistakes that now have crept in, because of this broken world. Too many mutations. Anyway, I hope this answers the question on Cain's wife, and gives a bit of motivation as Christians to live a perfect holy life before God, not to live in two worlds. And thank you for listening. God bless, and keep well.